told me.
He had this reunion, and he never went. And he planned this trip. He got these cheap flights to get I think from Chicago. Jim Goldman took him to the airport. It was like a 6 a.m. flight. He was so excited. He was going to get in at about 8 in the morning. And the thing was at like 1:30. He gets to the airport. He sees there's no such flight. It's 6 at night, the flight. So he didn't go. He came home.
Yeah, and he had that thing when he was going there to Israel.
Right. Well, that was a big bracha.
Rabbi, coffee.
What? Sure.
This is getting serious.
Okay, fine. It's recording now, so
Okay, I'll come back. You hear?
Rabbi Avram.
Right here.
Yeah. You know what? All of this stuff. I once heard barrel wine. The barrel wine was introduced, and it was a very, grandiose introduction.
you're live.
So by the time he finished the introduction, barrel wine got up and he said, "After that introduction, I can't wait to hear what I'm going to say."
He also has a line, "Thank you for reading it the way I wrote it."
Very good. All right. So, Chaim had a question about the Bikesh Yankee relationship with Shalva, that Yankee wanted to live in. How do they translate Shalva?
Tranquility?
Equanimity.
Equanimity? Maybe. Any of those, all of those. And so Rashi's girsa on that is
It's in a strange place, that Rashi,
There's
too.
no Barach.
It's not
Where
the
is
first
it?
Rashi.
not, huh? Where was that?
It's this, like third Rashi. Hey, it's not the. It's like,
It's over here.
Okay, yeah, here it is. Bikesh Yankee relationship with Shalva, Kovat alav rigzei shel Yosef, so this literally would be rigzei, would be anger. But here would be probably more correctly the turbulence of Yosef. Tzadikim v'vakshim relationship with Shalva. The tzadikim seek to dwell b'shalva, whatever that means. Emer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so Hashem says, L'yidaynu tzadikim Hashem shekulam le'elam haba. Not enough that tzadikim have what's waiting for them in Olam Haba, and Shemavakshim relationship b'shalva, b'olam hazeh, but they want to live in shalva, in this world. So, number one, Rashi has changed, at least changed the girsa from the Medrash. The Medrash says, instead of Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Satan, that the Satan is the one who raises the challenge about, the tzaddikim wanting to live in peace. And then there's some question about whether, even in Rashi's girsa, whether this is a statement or question. In other words, that Hashem is saying it's not enough that the tzaddikim, what's waiting for them, or it's a statement of astonishment. Not enough what you have in Olam Haba. You want this too. So there's a chazal of Tzadikim ein lohem menucha lo ba'olam hazeh lo ba'olam haba, that they have no peace, not in this world, not in the next world. The Ramchal in his Derech Hashem, when he discusses what the nature of the Olam HaTchiyah, the world of Tchiyas HaMeisim is going to be like, so he speaks about the fact that this concept of a guf and a neshama in the Olam HaTchiyah is something that is under constant transition, so that the guf represents an aspect of the neshama which is of a lesser quality, and the neshama is an aspect of the person which is of a higher quality, a more exalted quality, and that the neshama is constantly informing the lesser part with the exposure to the loftier part, and it's that very dynamic of inspiring the lesser part to move upward, which propels the neshama to the next level. In other words, being a mashpia, a successful mashpia, is something which elevates the mashpia. So the neshama is mashpia to the guf, and the guf is elevated, and that picks up the entire entity. But he makes it clear that the concept of what a guf is very different than what our common understanding of a guf. A guf by us is a physical entity, and what he's suggesting is that concept is always under transition, and a guf, all that guf means is that it's a lesser madrega, and so it could, and that's what they say about Adam Rishon. Adam Rishon, before the Chet, had a completely different kind of a guf. The guf was something spiritual, at least in our terms. It was something that had a certain very uplifted quality. It was a kind of like a translucent kind of a thing, and it wasn't until Adam Rishon ate of the Eitz Hadas that the guf, which was Oyer with an aleph, became Oyer with an ayin. So that the eating of the Eitz Hadas changed the entire entity of Adam Rishon, who was a very, very exalted, sublime neshama with a guf of Oyer, and now everything fell to a madrega where the guf, which was Eir with an aleph, became Eir with an ayin. So the Chazal say that Rabbi Meir had a Sefer Torah in which it said Eir with an aleph. So we asked the question, if he had a Sefer Torah, and Rabbi Meir was a Sefer. You will say that Rabbi Meir was a Sefer, and there's a whole deal about how he wrote a Sefer Torah, what kind of ink he used. In any event, so if he had oil with an aleph, so it's a Apostle Sefer Torah, because it's supposed to be oil with an ayin. So they say that when Rabbi Meir taught Torah, and he taught the Torah in such a way that everything that was obscured, because the whole world is covered by an oil with an eye. Now everything is shrouded and hidden. All of the kedusha, all of the Rabbi Michel's presence is all hidden. So, but with his Torah, when he taught Torah, so he was able to help his Talmidim penetrate all of the air of this world, and they saw with his Torah their own physicality was transformed into Eir with an Aleph, but not with that in the Sefer Torah, but with his Torah, it became Eir with an Aleph. So according to Ramchal, there in the Matchia there's a whole deal about in the Rishonim about what the Olam Matchia is all about. So clearly, after a person's physical demise, there is an Olam HaNeshama, so which there is no guf. But the Rambam seems to imply that the Olam Matchia there's not going to be a guf, and the Mekubalim are very, very clear and very insistent about the fact that the Olam Atchiyah there is going to be a guf in the neshama, but that the meaning of guf and neshama change. It's not classic like what we believe to be guf, but guf is always a chelik of the human condition where there is a higher part and a lower part, and that's constantly under. It's constantly under transition. So they say that tzaddikim ein lehem menucha lo b'olam hazeh lo b'olam haba means that they're constantly going to be on this upward journey. They're constantly going to be moving and growing. There's no such thing as a place where it's static. It's always dynamic. It's always the tzaddikim are always going to be. So, in some of the Soma Kedeshim, they do a little thing on the statement in Lahem Menucha that the nature of tzaddikim, there's this concept of Chazal say that a person at the time of death, even if a person's hands are clenched at death, his hands open up. So they say that the reason for that is because the nature of people is that im yishloi mona rotzeh Messiah. No matter what a person has, he wants more. And consequently, when a person in his last moments, he's never reached a point where he's satisfied that what he has in his hands is enough. So the kind of the last moment is an opening of the hands, which is the indication of, and I never got what the human condition. That's the human condition. I never reached the place where I had enough, and so the hands open up. But the fact is that's not all bad, because even though the Rebbeinu Shalom did not want that quality to be invested in the physical world, he did want it to be invested in the spiritual world. That a person should always want more. That the only way in which a person could want more in the spiritual world is if he's not complacent. And one of the things that happens is that, and it happens to us, I think, pretty regularly, is that, we think we're doing enough. So, I go to davening in the morning, and I think that's enough, and I put on film, and so I'm someone were to say to me, are you doing enough? So one part of me would like to say, of course I'm doing enough. I mean, I'm Shomer Shabbos, and I keep kosher, and I try to, not to cheat people and stuff. So I'm doing enough. But there should be that kind of yearning, that kind of thirst, which is never satisfied, and a person should always feel that there's so much more that one can acquire, especially if, instead of kind of being on a self-congratulatory journey, we're looking at the relationship. And we go back to that very important aspect, that the Rabbi Michel wants us to have a relationship with him, which is that relationship is the conduit to that ultimate, absolute tainug that the neshama can have, and that the Rabbi Michel, as a loving being, as a loving parent, wants us to have. Hashem wants us to have the ultimate. So, if we have a sense of how, of our own potential, if we have a sense of how much the neshama can aspire to, then wherever we are will be, in our eyes, insufficient, and we'll be humbled by the contrast between what we are and what we can be. Rabbi Michel said this famous quote of, "I'm not worried about the fact that after 120 years that the Rabbi Michel is going to say to me, Zisha, why weren't you Moshe Rabbeinu? Zisha, why weren't you Hillel? Or Zisha, why weren't you the Baal Shem HaKodesh?" I mean, I'm not worried about that. When the Rabbi Michel will ask me that question, I know what I'll say. I dread the moment when the Rabbi Michel will say to me, Zisha, why weren't you Zisha? And the fact that if the Rabbi Michel would, after 120 years, would project in front of us what we could have been, and we see ourselves as we made of ourselves, that is a very worrisome and very humbling kind of moment. They say that essentially that was the source of Moshe Rabbeinu's anivus. Here we have Moshe Rabbeinu, who was this lekam b'Yisrael k'Moshe. So how could he be under Mikol Mashal Pnei Adama? How could that be? But Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who had the greatest appreciation of what his neshama was capable of. And when Moshe Rabbeinu looked at what the neshama is capable of, and what we managed somehow to achieve, so that's always a most humbling moment. And for Moshe Rabbeinu, who had the greatest appreciation of that, he was the humblest of all people. He wasn't measuring himself against anybody else. He was measuring himself against himself. They say that Rabbi Melech of Lezhensk, who was a Talmud of the great Maggid, whose Yotzeit is today. So Rabbi Melech was once found by his Talmidim to be in a state of dejection. And of course, Rabbi Melech was very rarely in a state of dejection, so they were very, kind of taken aback. So the Talmidim said to him, Rebbe, what's going on? So he said to them, he said, I'm very concerned about the fact that I don't think I have a chelik in Olam Haba. I don't deserve to have a chelik in Olam Haba. So obviously he had made this comparison and felt that he wasn't. So then, they kind of shook their heads and left. If the Rebbe doesn't think he has a chelik Olam Haba, if a fire is claiming these giant cedar trees, then what are the weeds to say? So then a short time later they found him and he was besimcha. So they said to him, what happened? What happened in the last little bit of time that you're not worried anymore? He said, I know a way that I'm sure to have a chelik olam haba. So, we're waiting expectantly for him to explain that. So he said, here's what's going to happen. He said, I'm going to come up in olam haba and I'm going to stand in front of the KSY and the Rabbi Michel is going to say to me, Melech, did you learn Torah? And I'm going to say to him, no. He said, not that I didn't learn Torah, but compared to all of the great people who learned Torah, how they learned Torah, and how much they learned Torah, and what Kedusha they learned Torah, is my learning Torah, is that learn? Doesn't compare. It doesn't even make it into the consideration. So I'm going to say no. So the Rebbe says, okay, so you didn't learn Torah, but you davened, right? And I'm going to say no. And not that I didn't daven, but compared to all the great tzaddikim who davened, is my davening a davening? I say no. Melech, you did Gemilas Chasodim. He said, of course they did Gemilas Chasodim, but compared to people who did Gemilas Chasodim, what kind of kavanah they had, is my Gemilas Chasodim? I'm going to say no. The Baruch Shalom is going to say to you, you know what, Melech? You told the truth, and you get Olam Haba for telling the truth.
Today is Rebbeinu Yotzei.
No, today is the Magi's Yotzei. Anyway, there's something I want to say, that the statement, tzaddikim ein lahem menucha, so the word ein should be changed to ayin. You change the nekudas, and it's tzaddikim ayin lahem menucha. The fact that they feel that that there's so much more that they have to do, that where they are right now is by comparison is ayin. That's lahem menucha. That state, that very state of that tension, that very state of recognizing that there's so much more to do, it's that tension that for them is peace. That's the menucha is recognizing that there's so much more that they can do. So the ayin, that's lahem menucha. That's for them. That's their state of menucha. So, on the one hand, I think that we're all aware of this fact that, the Chazal say a person cannot believe in himself till the last moment of their lives. You can't trust. You can't say to yourself, I'm beyond being corrupted, the Yetzer Hara can't get at me at all. I'm beyond the wiles and the seduction of the Yetzer Hara. A person can't say that. So, and there's one place where we know that we're not really secure, or that we're not really safe from the Yetzer Hara. On the other hand, the very fact that we know how critical it is that we remain connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom, makes us want to be free of the Yetzer Hara. We wish that we didn't have to struggle every day. The Zohar Kodesh says that when we daven, Shas Krov, it's a time of war. And that when we eat, it's a time of war. So there's no place that we're safe. We're not safe when we're davening, because the Yetzer Hara can get at us in a variety of different ways. It can distract us, or can make us complacent or arrogant, and when we're eating, for sure we're at risk, because we're apt to be indulgent and not conscious of the fact that even eating can be a very spiritual time for us. And so you want to say that's the reason that lechem and milchama have the same letters, because lechem is a time of being lechem. It's a time in which we're really, whether we're aware of it at the moment or not, but it's really a time of war. It's a time in which we are facing adversity. So. I think it's fair to say, I'm not sure exactly about, we'd have to check, there are dictionaries from many of the Mefarshim of the Torah that deal with synonyms. So I'm not sure exactly how Sholem and Shalva and Menucha, how those, what the subtleties of those words are. But I think that Shalva is an expression of, Yaakov Avinu certainly had the menucha of ayin, and he certainly wanted to grow closer and grow. I don't think he was looking not to grow.
What's the menucha of ayin? What is the menucha of ayin?
And the menucha of ayin is that tzaddikim welcome the opportunity to grow, because of the fact that they see that where they are is ayin compared to where they could be. So that's a ayin with an aleph. So that's that to them is menucha. In other words, the very growing itself is menucha.
So if lachem is a time of milchama, does that indicate any reason that person shouldn't be eating while he's learning? Because you're not doing milchama for learning. No.
I don't think that makes a difference.
So maybe you in the midst of explaining Shalva?
Yeah, so I think that Shalva is a state in which I'm not challenged. In other words, the ayin part is just this yearning to become more, to develop self-actualization, to come closer to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's great, but not to have to deal with all of the subtle ways in which the Yetzer Hara comes at us. We have to deal with something which seeks to compromise us, that seeks to kind of get into what we're doing and bring us down. He said, Rabbi Michel, I may have said this, Rabbi Michel said to his Hasidim, if you want to be able to be successful in dealing with the Yetzer Hara, you have to picture the Yetzer Hara as someone who's standing in front of you with an unsheathed sword, threatening to cut your head off. That's how you have to see him. He's an enemy. He's a bitter enemy. He wants to bring you down. So if you see him that way, so then you'll react appropriately. So one of the Chassidim said to him, what happens, Rabbi, if you can't see him that way, you can't picture him that way? He said, that means that he's already cut your head off.
Who said that?
The Rabbeinu Pshischa. We also have another very famous count. He once said to his Chassidim, there is an Olam HaToyu. He said there's a world of complete emptiness. He said that world is occupied by people just like us. They do the same things as we are. They go off to work every day. They go into the restaurant. They do everything just the way we do. But it's an Olam HaToyu. It's an illusionary world. So one Chassidim said to him, so Rebbe, how do we know that we're not in Olam HaToyu? So the Rebbeinu said, because in the Olam HaToyu, you can't ask that question. Anyway, so I think this Bikesh Yankiv Lesher B'Shalva is kind of something that all of us would yearn, Rebbeinu Shalom, I just want to grow in Yiddishkeit. I want to become closer to you, but I don't feel safe. As long as the Yetzer Hara is around, I don't feel safe. So I just want to be at peace. I don't want to feel, it seems that wherever a Jew is, it's not just in Golus, but even here in Eretz Yisrael. I mean, we live in Milwaukee. We live in an integrated neighborhood where there's a fair amount of they steal your cars, they steal your bikes, and on rare occasion, you'll be approached by somebody who wants your wallet. Baruch Hashem, we've been in this neighborhood now for 60-some years, and we have not had one serious crime. Baruch Hashem. But we've had all these incidents there, which are not, but so there's some people who are afraid to live in our neighborhood because it is an integrated neighborhood. 50% of the neighborhood are Afro-Americans. But I have to tell you that, now it's not so bad, but when we had these Arabs working here, I felt more at risk here than I did because the Afro-Americans don't hate me, and they're not interested in killing me. But over here, it's all of us want to feel safe. And just as we want to feel physically safe, we want to feel spiritually safe. We want to feel that nothing's going to come around that's going to really corrupt my soul. That's going to stain my neshama. I don't. So I think because Yankiv Lesher B'Shalva, that Yankiv wanted to find. He wanted to be at peace. He lived with Lavan, dealt with Esav. It's enough. I've lived with evil, and I just want to be b'shalva. Not b'menucha. I just want to be b'shalva.
Was he no longer trying to improve himself at that point?
What?
Was he no longer trying to improve himself?
No, I think he did want to improve himself. I think that's why menucha is something that comes out of a thirst for self-actualization, for self-perfection. I don't think, but he wanted to improve himself on the basis of his yearning, not on the basis of the challenge. Much of our challenge really, much of our growth really comes in facing in facing challenge, not necessarily from the fact that we're better than them. So the fact that we overcome our Yetzer Hara on a moment-by-moment basis it's all a way in which we are defining ourselves, in which we're perfecting ourselves, but we're defining ourselves against adversity. And Yaakov Avinu was happy defining himself by his yearning to improve his connection with the Rebbeinu Shalom, but I don't want to feel like at any given moment that I'm going to err because the Yetzer Hara is going to get at me through arrogance. It's going to get at me through pride. It's going to get at me through taiva.
So it was okay, the Bikish Yaakov Lishos B'Shalva was okay? Or no?
So I'm just discussing his, how we can justify his wanting to live b'shalva. He wanted to live in peace from the Yetzer Hara, but the Rebbeinu Shalom said to him, according to either Giosa, the Rebbeinu Shalom saying to him, there's defining yourself by your desire for more, and there's the defining yourself by facing adversity, and they are both necessary for the human condition. So it's a statement, Lo Yidayon, it's not enough what you've achieved in Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. You need, in order to be able to become who you need to become, it can become, to deal with, still got to deal with evil. You got to deal with.
You need the ruggers, Rogzo Shel Yosef.
Right.
The ruggers.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be Shel Yosef, but if you want, you would say Yosef. You can use Yosef as improvement.
But the ruggers is l'chora disturbance.
Right.
So Yaakov thought that he could grow best without these disturbances, these distractions. The Rebbeinu Shalom said to him, no, you need the ruggers also to grow. Is that what we're saying? That's also a mahalach in Aliyah?
Also, Hamal and Aliyah, and apparently a very essential chiluk in Aliyah. It's not fun, and it's not particularly comforting for us to know that that's the human condition that we have to deal with.
So that's the machlokes gershus. If it's from the sun, then the ruggers is a shter. From HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a mila.
Right.
Rabbi, I just want to understand, going back to some of the shiurim that you gave before, when we look at Yosef, Dafka as this weapon that Yaakov was aware of, that it gave him the koyach, the thought to go ahead and now approach Esav. But we see over here, I was wondering if there's maybe a kesher between ideas behind Bikesh Shalva, not having to be in a war space, and losing Yosef, which is this potential, or this weapon, as a direct result. The idea behind kafats is that it's an immediate thing. There's not progression there. There's just, it happens.
Surprise attack.
What?
Surprise attack.
Yeah. Sounds good. So, it's a little bit like, I've worked for 100 and something years. I want to retire. I'll let Yosef take over. Let him fight the battle. Yeah.
Supposedly Yaakov didn't quite get the message in terms of he wanted Shalom, he wanted certain direction. Hashem says,
That can happen.
Hashem is saying it is going to happen, but it has to happen this way.
Right.
But Yaakov doesn't take it, doesn't accept it, and therefore he suffers more than perhaps he needed to, because he didn't accept that.
It certainly looks that way, and And there's no question about the fact that he continued to suffer. They say that Vayechi Yankiv, Be'eretz Mitzrayim, so Vayechi, the numerical value of Vayechi is 17. 6, 10,
37.
no, it's 30 what?
30.
30. Wait, how long did he live in so he lived, he
He was
can't, what?
130 when he got Mitzrayim. He was another 17 years.
17 years.
Just to come to 30, that's 34. Like, he's 34.
Oh, it was 34, right?
Right.
So they say that that the years of Yankov's life when his Vayechi were 34 because it was the first 17 years of Yosef and the last 17 years in Mitzrayim. That was Vayechi. So they say that it wasn't until the last 17 years of his life, the years that Yaakov was really free of any tzoros. That's kind of when it all came together, and you know, he was there with his children. They were all intact, and so on.
That was the retirement.
Huh?
That was the retirement.
That was his retirement. Yeah.
Before the Rogue Shel Yosef, how did Yaakov, what did he anticipate? Gary Zer, Zerach, Beretz, Lahem, there was a haftacha from the Kodesh Baruch Hu that there's going to be tzara. So what did he anticipate?
He had his tzara. Isn't that what he had his tzaras of Esav and Lavan?
That's what he thought. And it was over.
And he had the Shiftei Khan.
I mean, he feels it's ma'akev his growth.
The what?
He's asking because he feels like the Taurus is ma'akev his growth. He wants to go more.
They say Ruch Gadol, all those,
And what?
all those things in the haftacha. They do what they do. There's the Yanusel, they say Ruch Gadol. So that was all from Lavan.
I can't see that, because he knew he was going into Gullus, and that Esav was going to Har Seir. That Esav was getting Har Seir because he chose not to accept that Gullus upon himself.
So what are you saying?
So he knew that there was more Gullus to come, there was more suffering to come.
I suppose that it wouldn't. You know, one can assume that Yaakov was hoping that the definition of all these terms would be mitigated. You know, that they wouldn't be so severe.
Well, there's a difference between his personal sorrows and the national sorrows. Like regardless of party sorrows, it's not something he has to do. He doesn't have to go through it. He knows that's part of the plan, but it's not. And the other thing is also sleeping.
What?
When he saw Parrot on his face, he saw that he was honestly.
Right.
It seems like, if we can see, he has a thing with how to deal with sorrows.
Yeah, I don't think any one of us can blame Yaakov or judge him because his tzoros were extraordinary. Tzoros Esav, tzoros Lavan, tzoros Yosef, tzoros Dino. So he. Tzoros are not fun. What?
That's the title of this year.
Tzoros are not fun?
We can quote you on that.
But that made the shiftei call. That's the rye, and the rye is they're not fun, but unfortunately, that's the way you create.
That's the message that the Rabbi is saying. No,
Right.
it has to be, it's not from the end, it's from the challenge itself.
But can't there still be an easier way?
Kisarisa.
Right, Kisarisa. It comes from the struggle.
That's right. There's still got to be an easier way.
It's Tzoros and challenge, the same thing.
No. They're not the same thing, but tzoros are challenging, but not all challenges are tzoros.
Generally, we look at challenges we've gone through and go, it was terrible when it happened, and then you look, not always, but you look back 5 years back and you say, that did me a lot of good. I mean, you have to look at that. I mean, that's the way it should be. We usually don't see that, but a lot of times we do.
That we have the benefit in retrospect of
Right.
appreciating what happened.
What about the fact that we're supposed to meet life with simcha all the time, whether the challenges, journey, tzoros? I mean, could that kind of give us that extra impetus to approach it with joy in a certain sense? Okay, we're growing, we're getting closer to Hashem, we're following His Retzon, so we're elevated just by it. Your experience is elevating rather than, oh gosh, another challenge, another this, another that. Oh my gosh. It's a hard place to reach, but maybe we should be striving for that as well.
You know, my great-grandfather was this towering person. He was a goyin olam, and from the big Rebbes in his time, Reb Motala of Honestapel. So, on one occasion, there was a sreifa, there was a fire that destroyed his home, and he had KSY. First of all, he had a sefer that he had written over a long period of time on Shemes Gittin, which was a classical work, and that was consumed by the fire. And afterwards, he didn't want to paskin anymore on Shemes Gittin because he felt he didn't have the criteria at his disposal. And he had a sefer he was working on from the Baditcher Rov, from the Kedushas Levi, a pirush on Masechta Ksubas in Nigla. So he was completing that to be printed. He had KSY there that he had recorded his grandfather's teres from the Chekasar. Anyway, it was all consumed by the fire. So when he learned of what had happened, so he was very, very saddened. So his Hasidim saw that, and they said to him, Rebbe, you've taught us about simcha, even in times of pain, so, what's happening here? So he said to them, he said, on Pesach, there's a mitzvah of achilas maror. And if you swallow the maror in a way in which you don't taste it, then you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah. So he says, so there is you have a joy in fulfilling the mitzvah, but you only have the joy in fulfilling the mitzvah if you taste the maror. So he says, so I first have to register this as maror. And only after I register as maror, then I can be a simcha. He said, okay, bring some schnapps and we'll make a l'chaim. So and we have to register things.
That was the best question of the week.
Even if you say so yourself.
Yeah, waiting a couple of days.
That's the best title. Thank you.
You can have the best question of the week.
Oh, I was thinking